So, other countries, Greek voters were caught between the two options. First of all, voters rejected austerity. Sorry, this way. They rejected austerity with Syriza. But then they eventually said, no, we will have austerity in the re-election run. Voters in France rejected austerity. François Hollande said austerity was no longer inevitable. And now we come to the biggest of all, the debate that's taking place in Washington. Which way is that going? Between Republicans on austerity and Democrats on spending. Backwards and forwards this is going as they have to decide whether to have cuts. Let's talk to Bronwyn Curtis, the senior advisor at HSBC Investment Banking arm. Bronwyn, who is winning the battle between austerity and spending at the moment, and is it important for economic growth?
It's really difficult in the West, so in Europe and in the US, to know exactly what to do, because we have a budget in the UK, 20th of March, so just less than a month ago to go. And what is George Osborne, the Chancellor, going to do? He says he's going to stick to austerity now, but, you know, there will be pressure on him to, you know, take some of that off, because the economy is just not growing.
It's not growing, and voters in Italy have given their opinion. They don't want austerity, but at the same time, I mean, what's the best hope for Italy? That Mario Draghi eventually comes in and starts buying bonds?
And I think that's probably not what you want, because always the threat of the European Central Bank coming in is better than actually the actuality. But I think in Italy, look, they've always had weak governments, they've always had coalitions, so in some ways this isn't a surprise. If you're sitting in Italy, are you going to vote for more austerity? Are you going to say, you know, I want to have spending cut?
Then that means we do end up with this odd situation, doesn't it, where the people are, and have been, Hollande in France, Greece, Italy, the people are saying no more, and the politicians are continuing regardless.
Well, of course, if you're an economist like me, what you would say is that you cannot let spending to keep on going. You cannot let the debt situation spiral out of control, because you end up in an impossible situation and you will have a much worse recession. So it's getting that balance between austerity and spending right that's so difficult.
The IMF late last year basically said there was too much austerity and it was killing the golden goose, or whatever, the goose that lays the golden egg. Do you think we've got the balance wrong and it needs to be readdressed?
I don't think we know. I think that's the problem. What we've seen is that on monetary policy, they've got, I mean, you know, most countries, the rates are at zero in the Western world, and they're doing quantitative easing.
And it's still not growing.
And it's still not growing. I mean, austerity alone works better if the rest of the world's growing. And that's not happening now, because all of the countries in Europe and the US are doing austerity.